Good afternoon, class. So today we will, before starting the revolt of 1857, we will have to understand the constitution development before 1857. Okay. So this particular chapter we will cover in two parts, and when we will cover this particular chapter, everything would be clear that what was happening at which important instance. ठीक है. तो इसको पढ़ने के लिए जो चार्टर एक्ट हैं दे आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आई एम टेलिंग यू होल ऑफ द हिस्ट्री इज बेस्ड ऑन ओनली ऑन दीज चार्टर एक्ट्स. If you understand the charter act, you will understand whole of a history in a very smooth manner. Okay. So first of all, I hope you remember what was happening in 1765. What was happening in 1765? There was Battle of Buxar. The Battle of Buxar provided for basically two major things. First of all, the Diwani rights were provided to the British East India Company, and secondly, the Mughal Sultanate or the Mughal Empire was completely reduced, and there was no major challenge from the Mughal Empire afterwards the Treaty of Allahabad. Okay, so Treaty of Allahabad did two things. First of all, the Diwani rights were provided to the British India. Now what are Diwani rights? Collection of the revenue. And the Nizamat function were also with the British East India Company. Okay, so these are the two things that happened in 1765. From 1765 to 1773, what happened that actually culminated into the Regulation Act of 1773. After 1773 to 1784, whatever have happened led to the Pitt's India Act of 1784. After 1784 to 1793, whatever have happened give rise to the Charter Act of 1793. Okay, so basically we will read about the Charter Act in the same background. The background is missing in this particular chapter, but I will be giving you the background so that it will be easier for you to understand, and the relativity from the earlier Charter Act to the newer Charter Act will be there. Okay. So again, starting from the concept from the first chapter, I hope you remember the East India Company came in 1600. They first of all came to Gujarat. Then they shifted their base to the eastern side. They set up their base in Masulipatam. After Masulipatam, they went to Vishakhapatnam. Then from Vishakhapatnam, they went to Calcutta. And in Calcutta, they established their fort. Or in Chennai, they had their first fort called as Fort St. George, and then they went to Kolkata, where they established their second fort called as Fort William. Okay, I hope you remember this. Now, in 1765, what was the major event that happened? In 1764, they won the Battle of Buxar. In 1765, they had a treaty of Allahabad. Now, in Treaty of Allahabad, they got the Diwani rights of three states. Who were the three states? Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha. Okay, when I talk about Bengal, Bengal include the whole of Bangladesh today, the most part of Assam, and then there is Bihar and Jharkhand of today, and then there is Odisha of today. Okay, so these were some of the states to which the British got the Diwani rights. When I say Diwani rights, that is the collection of the revenue. I hope this is clear. Now, the first intervention, although came by the Regulating Act of 1773, but before 1773 and 1767, the British government asked for 10% share in the plunder of the Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha. Okay, so see the situation. The East India Company have come to India. They are a trading company. Over the years, they have defeated the Mughal Emperor. They have defeated the Marathas, or they are going to defeat the Marathas. They are currently in 1767 fighting with they have eliminated the challenge of the French in 1763. Now they will be fighting with Mysore and Marathas. These are the two major power that are left in India. They have humbled Bengal. They have humbled Hyderabad. Okay, in the Anglo-Maratha war, something will happen. So in the Mysore war, there will be something that will also be happening, because Mysore was also increasing upon or threatening the Hyderabad. So Hyderabad got into alliance with Britishers. Okay, I hope this is clear. In the Anglo-French war, we have already seen that Hyderabad was completely under the protection of the Britishers. Okay, this is all the background we have studied. I hope this is clear. So in 1767, the British Parliament or the British government said that you give us 10% royalty. And what was that royalty for? For 10% share, whatever you will be earning from Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. So the 10% equally amounted to 4 million pounds. I hope this is clear. Then from 1765 to 1772, there was dual government in the state of Bengal. Okay, what was the dual government? I have told you there were basically four functions in any administration. So what are these four functions? One is military function, one is police function. Police is for day-to-day administration, military is for waging war and fighting with the neighbors. Then we have revenue collection. Revenue is the tax collection. Okay, I hope this is clear. And then we have a justice system. Okay. Now all of these four were controlled by the Britishers. But the responsibility to receiving the claim, the responsibility to sit on the throne, the responsibility to hear about the issues of, you can say, people of Bengal was with the Nawab of Bengal. So what was happening? He was not given the police powers. He was not given the revenue powers. He was devoid of the collection of the revenue, and he did not had any military powers or police powers. So he was mere puppet in the hand of the Britishers. Okay. So this was the same situation. मान लीजिए there is a government. In government, these four departments are with one person. Okay. Right now, if you see HP government, the finance department is with CM Jairam, the police is with CM Jairam, the taxation or the collection or the excise and taxation department is with Mr. CM Jairam. Okay. So that is how you control the administration. That is how you are running the show. But in the case of dual government of Bengal, the Nawab did not have any of these powers. So he did not have finances. If he did not have finances, how you will pay for the police and the military? Okay. Secondly, if the police and military are not with you, do you wield any power in real form or not? So basically you did not have any power. So in 1765 to 1772, there was dual government. The government had all the responsibility but no power, and the company had all the power but no responsibility. So if there is no responsibility, what you will do? You will engage in corruption. So the servants of the company engaged in corruption, they enriched themselves. The excessive revenue collection and the operation of the peasantry continued, and the company filed for bankruptcy. See the situation. The company has filed for bankruptcy because company is not making profits, but the servants were making huge profits. बोलने का मतलब क्या है कि ऊपर का पैसा जो था वो बहुत था, पर जो ऊपर से जो पैसा था वो बहुत था, पर actual the government or the company was struggling. Okay? So this happened from 1765 to 1772, and in 1773 the British Parliament decided that now it is time for the regulation of the company's affair. Okay? So what they did, in 1773 the company is performing. You cannot directly attack on the company because then there will be capitalist forces who will say that you are taking over our business. So what they said to the company, that we will not interfere in your affairs, whatever you are conducting in India, but inform us. You inform us that what are your commercial, revenue or any other affair that you are conducting. Okay. So they said that you will give us information on the basis that what you are doing. This was the first thing. The second is the Governor General of Bengal, because when there were three different heads, the Governor of Madras, the Governor of Bengal, the Governor of Bombay, it was difficult to maintain communication. So you need a centralizing authority. So in 1773, they said that the Governor of Bengal will be called as the Governor General of Bengal. And the first Governor General of Bengal was Lord Warren Hastings. ठीक है, तो इस बात को ध्यान रखिएगा. So he became the first Governor General. And if he made the first Governor General, the designation was elevated. किसकी? Bengal के Governor की. Why the Bengal Governor designation was elevated? Because that was the cash making cow. So cash making cow was elevated. So Bengal Governor was called as the Governor General of Bengal. And the another two, that is Bombay and Madras, were made subordinate to him. I hope this is clear. Then if you remember, the Fort William that I have been telling you has been called as the permanent seat of the Supreme Court. So under Charter Act of 1773, Supreme Court of Calcutta was established. Okay? And then the corruption that was going on from 1765 to 1772, that was regulated by the Charter Act of 1773, and in 1773 it was said कि अब जो है आप करप्शन नहीं करेंगे. So how you will remember Charter Act of 1773? I have told you easier way, that I will give you easier way to remember. So three things it did. First of all, Governor General of Bengal, first thing. Second, Supreme Court of Calcutta, and third, prohibition on corruption. ठीक है, तो this is how you remember these particular details. Governor General of Bengal, ठीक है, not India. Understand the situation in 1773. Marathas are still there, Mysore is still there, so you cannot unite whole of the country. So that's why the Charter Act of 1773 only provided for the Governor of Bengal to be designated as Governor General of Bengal. So Governor General of Bengal, first provision, Supreme Court of Calcutta, second provision, and the third provision is the prohibition on corruption. Okay? So these are the three things. Apart from that, there was a council that was established for the Governor General. Okay? Now you will remember this in Governor General. We have remembered the three major points. The Governor General, he was assisted by Council of Four. Okay? Further point. Okay? Then the prohibition on the corruption was there. So how you will check the prohibition on corruption? Because if the company is not able to regulate a prohibition on corruption, there should be some other body who will be looking into corruption. For example, if let's say there is a fraud that is being committed in the company, do you ever say कि company अपनी corruption को check करे? No, you bring in an external body to look after for the regulation on that. So same happened. The company was now asked to provide or furnish any information with respect to revenue, civil and military affairs in India to the British Parliament or to the British government. Okay? So, how you remember this? Charter Act of 1773, Governor General of India, assisted by 4 members of council. The second one is the Supreme Court of Calcutta. Okay? And there was 1 Chief Justice and 3 other judges. That is the second provision. The third provision is the prohibition of the corruption. Therefore, the court of directors were within the company. Okay? They were the members of the company. So the court of directors were now asked to furnish any information with respect to the revenue, civil and military affairs to the British government. So I hope this is clear. And one more thing, the Madras and Bombay were made subordinated to the Governor General of Bengal. So I hope this is clear. Then came the amendment of 1781. Now why this is a problem? So when the Supreme Court was established, it has jurisdiction on all the major decisions or all the things that the company was doing. So basically anybody could go to the Supreme Court and they can file a case against the Governor General of India or the company servant, even a native of India. So first of all, 2 things were given by amendments of 1781. Reduced the jurisdiction, first thing. Secondly, the servants were made immune for the official functions they were performing. Okay? Right now it is also the situation. We have seen in the case of public servant, if it is performing a official duty, he is to be protected by the government. I hope this is clear. So there were amendments 1781 that were carried out. First of all, the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court was defined that it will only confine to Calcutta. Second, the Supreme Court will not look for any cases if the company servants are functioning for the company. I hope this is clear. So, Charter Act of 1773, 3 provision. Governor General of Bengal, Supreme Court of Calcutta, and the corruption in the company. Okay? The Governor General of Bengal assisted by Council of 4, the Supreme Court of Calcutta, Supreme Court Judge plus 3, and the corruption is checked by the Court of Directors being reporting everything on finances to the Britannian government. Okay, I hope this is clear. This is how you remember information. Make it simple for yourself and it will be easier to remember. The next one is the amendments. Why amendments were carried out? Because every decision that the Governor General was taking had to be placed in front of Supreme Court. Anybody could challenge it. So the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court were reduced. It is said that anything that the Governor General or the company servants will be doing will be out of the purview of the Supreme Court. Secondly, the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court were only within Calcutta. Okay? And he will administer the personal law of the defendant and not the company law or not any other law. So only personal grievances will be entertained by the court now. Then came the Pitt's India Act of 1784. Now it further provided for the regulation over the East India Company. So what was happening? The Pitt's India Act of 1784 is basically famous for the Board of Control. Okay, so already we have a court of directors. Court of directors are the members of the company who are regulating the commercial, the revenue, the military and the police affairs within the territory of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Okay, from 1765 to 1772 it was Robert Clive. After 1773 it was Warren Hastings, and Warren Hastings was basically reporting, but that control was not directly in the British government or not directly in the Britain government. So what they said, उन्होंने बाहर से एक बॉडी लाई, बोर्ड ऑफ कंट्रोल. बोर्ड ऑफ कंट्रोल वाज गिवन टू मैनेज द पॉलिटिकल अफेयर्स इन इंडिया. ठीक है, सो कमर्शियल अफेयर्स एंड द पॉलिटिकल फंक्शंस वर सेपरेटेड नाउ. तो दे सेड टू द कंपनी that you want to trade, you are free to trade. But from now on, the British government will decide with whom they will sign a treaty, on which state they will wage a war, what kind of administration that they will provide, and how they will basically provide the collection of the revenue. Because they said to the company that you want to conduct your business, we will not stop you. You buy something, you sell something, that is your own money, however profit you want to do, but the board of control will be there. The board of control will look after the revenue function, okay, all the political affairs that are there. Okay, I hope this is clear. Okay, basically हुआ क्या, right now you can establish any company if you want to conduct a business. Okay, but tell me, can you collect revenue, or can a company have a taxation power? No. But in the India of 1773, the company also had the revenue collection power with them. They were taken in 1784. So they cannot basically take away the revenue. They do not have a control over army now. They do not have a control over police. Okay? They have a control only over the commercial affairs. Okay, that's why Pitt's India Act 1784 is famous, and for this there is another body called as Board of Control. Okay, and commercial and the political affairs were differentiated. The Board of Control was managing the political affairs, and therefore a dual government was established in India. A type of a dual government was established in India. Okay. Now, in the Board of Control, there was a Chancellor of Exchequer, Secretary of State, and 4 members of Privy Council, that is to be appointed by the Crown, who will exercise on civil, military, and revenue affairs. I hope this is clear. Okay, so now see the situation. The civil, military, and revenue in the Britain government, and the commercial affairs were in the East India Company. Okay. Now the Governor General will have a council that will have 3 members, including the Commander in Chief. Now, why the 3 members were required? There was civil, military and revenue affairs. So therefore 3 members were needed to be acquired. So the Governor General also included the Commander in Chief. Commander in Chief was the head of the military. Okay. For the civil affairs and the revenue affairs, there was Governor General of India. Okay, I hope this is clear. I hope you are understanding what I am saying. पिट्स इंडिया एक्ट ने बोर्ड ऑफ कंट्रोल बाहर से लाया और उन्होंने ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी को कहा कि अब जो है आप कमर्शियल अफेयर करिए, यहां से माल उठाइए, वहां पे माल बेचिए, जो भी प्रॉफिट है वो आपका, पर आप मिलिट्री को कंट्रोल नहीं करेंगे, आप सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को कंट्रोल नहीं करेंगे, आप रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट नहीं करेंगे. ये तीनों चीजें कौन करेगा? बोर्ड ऑफ कंट्रोल. बोर्ड ऑफ कंट्रोल में कौन थे? एक्सचेकर, सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट और 4 मेंबर्स ऑफ प्रीवी काउंसिल. तो सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट क्या है? याद रखिए, सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट किसके होंगे? कंपनी के नहीं. कंपनी का सिर्फ कोर्ट ऑफ डायरेक्टर होगा. सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट विल बी ऑफ बोर्ड ऑफ कंट्रोल. कंट्रोल करने के लिए एक बॉडी वहां पे बिठाई गई. ठीक है, तो आई होप दिस इज क्लियर. देन केम द चार्टर एक्ट ऑफ 1786. नाउ this was a special condition laid by Cornwallis. When Cornwallis came to India, he said that I will be Governor General of Bengal. Right now, he is still the Governor General of Bengal. And he is going to fight 2 major wars in India. So, he was a pretty smart man. He said that if I have to go to India, he says, or he thought he have written in his biography that if I had to control the commercial affairs, I should be given the power for the control of the military affairs and the civil affairs. Okay? because commercial affairs are related with stability, and stability can only be ensured if I had power to wage war and conclude treaties. Okay, this was the objective of Mr. Cornwallis. On the contrast, he was also well connected. His wife was the member, his wife was the daughter of one of the powerful member of the British Parliament. So therefore, he had huge influence. Okay, he is the same Cornwallis who was fighting in United States of America also. Okay, so he came to India in 1786. He said that I will have the powers of both Governor General and Commander in Chief. He was granted the power. So basically, what he was head of the civil and revenue affairs, and he was also the head of the military. Okay, so he was Commander in Chief when he was head, basically taking over the role of military commander, and he was Governor General when he was in civil and revenue affairs capacity, okay, or in the collection of revenue affairs capacity. Okay. So Cornwallis was basically allowed to override the council decision also. So there was a council of three. Okay, one was Commander in Chief. There were three persons who were there. So these three persons, if Commander in Chief or the Governor General of Bengal did not agree with the council has only three members. Understand the situation. Right now in our council in Lok Sabha we have 543 members. Okay, at that particular time the council had only three members. Okay, then came the Charter Act of 1793. 1793, nothing substantial, just one thing that you have to remember, that the home government. Now what is a home government? The board of control. Okay, because that is also called as a home government. So the Secretary of State, the four members of Privy Council, the Board of Control, the Governor General of India, they were all paid by the Indian revenues, and this continued up till 1919. Now see the situation. Who appointed Secretary of State? The British government. Who appointed the members of Privy Council? To be appointed by the Crown. And who appointed the Chancellor of Exchequer? Okay, the British government. ठीक है, of course when they are appointed by the crown, I hope you understand the basic recommendation. किसने कहा होगा? कैबिनेट ने कहा होगा crown को अपॉइंट करने के लिए. तो they were existing, but they were appointed by the Britain government and they were paid by the Indian expenses. ठीक है, ये वही सेम मतलब है कि India will decide that who will be the governor of the states in Nepal. However, Nepal will pay all the expenses of it. So this was the situation in 1793. 1793 is only famous for one thing, that the home government was started, or the home government was getting paid by the domestic expenses. Okay, this is the major thing that was happening. Okay. Then there was a royal approval that was necessary for Governor General, governors and the Commander in Chief. I hope you understand. The Governor General basically two functions: the revenue collection and the civil administration. Commander in Chief, military administration. Okay. However, the Cornwallis was allowed to even become Governor General and Commander Chief at the same time. So he had both the powers: military, civil and revenue collection. Okay. Commercial अभी भी किसके पास है? कंपनी के पास. Okay. Company was empowered to give licenses to the individual. Now company was allowed that individual you can give licenses on your own, and the privileges of the country trade paved the way for the shipment for opium to China. ठीक है, इसके बारे में बाद में पढ़ेंगे. Opium wars has also fought with China. So just remember that this allowed the East India Company to send some of the product to China also. Then came the Charter Act of 1813. So the Charter Act of 1813 basically provides for again the three things. Okay, first of all, the 20-year extension was already provided. If you remember all the Charter Acts are coming after 20 years. The first major thing that Charter Act of 1813 provided, the company's monopoly was abolished. Now what does we mean by abolition of the monopoly? Up till 1813, from 1773, only East India Company, okay, there were other companies in Britain, but only East India Company was allowed to trade with India. So this monopoly was abolished. Why it was abolished? So that other people who were also seeing that the East India Company is making huge profits or the servants of the East India Company were making huge profits. So they said we should also have a share in the Indian trade. So they were allowed by the Charter Act of 1830. Okay. So the monopoly of the East India Company was suspended, or you can say cancelled, except for the tea with China. So if there was to conduct a tea trade with China, only East India Company was allowed and all the possessions were taken away. The second was 1 lakh rupee was set aside for the revival, promotion and encouragement of the literature. However, this was a very important happening in 1813, but it did not lead to any substantial change because this money was not made available up till 1833. ठीक है, इस बात को ध्यान रखिएगा. Then there were separate accounts that were needed to be kept. This is not important. And the third major is the Christian missionaries. Okay, so these are the three things that you have to remember. So 1813 provided for three major things. The first one is the company's monopoly ended. Okay. Second one is the contribution for education, and third one is the Christian missionaries. So Charter Act of 1813 is famous for three C's. The first three is the company's monopoly over trade suspended. The second one is the contribution to education, and the third one is the Christian missionaries. ठीक है, इन तीनों को याद रखिए. This is how you remember Charter Act 1813. So 1 lakh rupees was not made available up till 1830. इस बात को भी ध्यान रखिए. 1813 में दिया गया था, but 1830 तक it was not made available. Then there was science among the natives of India that was also needed to be debated. What was happening, what was not happening. But understand this is happening in 1813. ठीक है, Marathas are on the verge of losing. Already they have been defeated in the Second Anglo-Maratha War in 1802 and 1803. And the final Maratha War will be happening in 1819 and 1818. Okay? So before that there is a Charter Act of 1830. Okay? Marathas will be defeated. I hope you remember the previous history. We have already talked about. So this Charter Act is coming in 1830. The Mysore has already been defeated. Okay? Now they also capture Mysore. So 1 lakh rupee for the revival and promotion of encouragement of literature, learning and science among the natives of India every year. But this money was not made available. Now, why they were doing this? Okay, if they have to set aside for some people education, why they were doing this? Just please understand, the monopoly of the company was suspended in 1813. Okay, Indians provided cheap labor. So if you have to provide someone to work for you, some initial training had to be provided. So that's why the education was being provided. They had no interest in educating people. They only wanted a certain set of people who will help them. Okay? Because East India Company provided huge dividend. Now as the competition is increasing, so the profitability is also decreasing. Okay? जब तक मोनोपोली थी तब तक only one company was there. जिस भी प्रॉफिट पे बेचते, the market was forced to buy it. But when the monopoly is abolished, you are looking for alternative ways to create profit. And the most important alternative way was to have a cheap labor consisting of Indians. अब आप British officers को East India Company लाती थी. They demanded huge. ठीक है, तो उसकी वजह से काफी ज्यादा एक्सपेंसेस किस पे खर्च हो जाते थे, जो ब्रिटिशर्स को पे करना पड़ता था. बट जैसे ही चार्टर एक्ट 1830 में मोनोपोली अबॉलिश करी, साथ साथ दे प्रोवाइडेड 1 लाख फॉर द एजुकेशन. इसलिए ताकि देयर शुड बी अ सेट ऑफ पीपल हु विल बी एजुकेटेड इनफ टू कंडक्ट द बिजनेस द कंपनी वांट देम टू बी कंडक्टेड, बट दे शुड नॉट वांट, और अ टाइप ऑफ अ रेवोल्यूशन शुड नॉट स्टार्ट इन इंडिया. ठीक है, तो ये पहला इंस्टेंस था, पर दैट वाज नॉट मेड अवेलेबल अप टू 1830. ठीक है, तो ये 1830 तक अवेलेबल हमें नहीं हुआ. आई होप दिस इज क्लियर. Then came the Charter Act of 1833, very very important act. Now whatever the monopoly was abolished, whatever the monopoly with China in tea was left, that was also abolished. Now see the situation of 1833. 1799 Mysore was defeated. ठीक है, completely capture of the Mysore. Hyderabad was already defeated during the Carnatic Wars. Odisha is already under their control. Awadh is also under their control. The middle of the Uttar Pradesh. Then they have taken some part of Madhya Pradesh. Marathas were also defeated in 1800 and 1819. So basically, whole of the most of the territories except for Rajputs and the Sikh were captured by the British East India Company, or you can say after the Pitt's Act of 1784 by the Board of Control. So in the Charter Act of 1833, the Governor General of Bengal is now designated as the Governor General of India. ठीक है, सिचुएशन समझिए. Every charter act has a story. If you understand the story, you will never forget the provision. But if you only try to read the provision, it will never be clear to you. Okay, so understand the story, and after the story, you will be able to comprehend that what was important at what part of the Charter Act. Okay, so 1813 monopoly was abolished. If monopoly was abolished, you need cheaper workers. Cheaper workers will require some education, so that's why 1 lakh rupees has been set for education. That is a different kind, that this money was not made available up to 1830, but this was the intention. The next one is the Christian missionaries who were introduced. So that was the 1813 part. Now after that, the Charter Act of 1833, whatever the monopoly with respect to tea with China was there, was also abolished. The second major was the Governor General of Bengal was now designated as the Governor General of India. And who was the first Governor General of India? William Bentinck. ठीक है, इस बात को ध्यान रखिएगा. ठीक है, and the restriction on the European immigration were completely abolished. So there were some restrictions for preventing the corruption. ठीक है, so now all the restrictions were abolished, and it is said that whatever the company or whatever the members of the servants who want to take any property in India, they can buy the property. Now when will you motivate some people to buy property in India? If you have complete control over their state. ठीक है, जैसे for example right now Amit Shah always say that Gilgit-Baltistan is ours. ठीक है, or Kashmir is ours, although it is in our territory, but you know the situation in Kashmir. So can you tell anybody in India that you can buy property in Kashmir? Or do you think people will go over there? No, they will only go over there if there is surety of protection from the state. The Board of Control came in 1784 by the Pitt's India Act. It stayed up till 1833 for ensuring that now we have a control over whole of India. So in 1833, as they consider that they have a control over whole of India, so they first of all made the Governor of Bengal the Governor of India. Secondly, they said to the people कि अब जो है आप आ जाइए, हम आपको प्रोटेक्ट कर लेंगे, यहाँ पे आप यहाँ पे जमीन खरीदना शुरू करिए. ठीक है, because now the state will be able to protect. ठीक है, I hope this is clear. Then the Bengal, Madras and Bombay, all the territories were placed under the complete control of Governor General, because he was made the Governor General of India, and all the revenues were to be raised under the authority of Governor General, who have complete control over the expenditure also. Okay, a law member was added in 1833 for any professional advice to the Governor General. So he became a member of the council. So council was operating with 3 members. Okay, there were 3 members in the Governor General Executive Council. Why it is called as a Governor General Executive Council? Because it was making the law, it was administering the law. Now the Governor General Council was included in the advice of the lawmaking. In 1833, there was a law member who was added. ठीक है, law member, जैसे for example we have Attorney General of India, on the same lines there was a law member. ठीक है, then Indian laws were to be codified, and the consolidation of the Indian laws said no Indian citizen was to be denied employment under the company on the basis of religion, color, birth of descent. This was a provision that was moved in 1833. Now see the situation. Education 1833 में, or Indian citizen should be included in 1833. But although this was a declaration, this was hugely contested by Board of Control. Board of Control said that we cannot let Indians sit equivalent to us, or they cannot sit equal to us. So what we will do? We will object this. So in 1833, although the provision was in the Charter Act of 1833 that no Indian should be denied employment, but the Board of Control made pressures that the higher administration should be kept aside from any Indian participation. So there was no All India services till 1833. ठीक है, इस बात को ध्यान रखिए. Although provision was announced, but it was not given. So education, you can remember 1830 में 1 lakh, but was not made available up to 1830. In 1833, introduction for Indians or the complete open up of the British administration system in 1833, but the Board of Control refused it. Then came the Charter Act of 1853. Okay, this is the one of the major act before the 1858 Act. Okay, now see the situation. We are denied education. People are demanding education. ठीक है, इसी समय पे you will see Brahmo Samaj and all the movement that will start from India. ठीक है, जो before the revolt of 1857, the first form of center will be Bengal. ठीक है, और first form of awakening of India will start from Bengal, and that will start from 1809. ठीक है, so 1809 में धीरे धीरे Bengal will start realizing that the Britishers are exploiting them. So firstly, when we will talk about the reform movements, I will define the reform movements in two parts. But for this particular understanding, just understand that the Act of 1786, okay, that is here, not the Act of 1786, but the year around 1813 to 1853 is for personal reform movement, not political reform movement. ठीक है, व्हेन आई से पर्सनल रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट, इसका मतलब क्या है कि छोटी छोटी जो त्रुटियां हमारे समाज में थी, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल सती प्रथा, विडो रीमैरिज, चाइल्ड मैरिज, उनके खिलाफ जो थी मूवमेंट विल बी स्टार्टेड. ठीक है, सो ब्रिटिशर्स वर नॉट थ्रेटन्ड विद इंडियंस एज दे विल बी इन द लेटर ईयर्स. व्हाई दे वांट इंडियंस? दे वांट इंडियंस टू देयर वर्क ऑन अ यू कैन से अफोर्डेबल बेसिस. ठीक है, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल आज के समय में व्हाई मेजर फैक्ट्रीज आर मूविंग टू बांग्लादेश? दे आर मूविंग टू बांग्लादेश बिकॉज द लेबर इज चीप ओवर देयर. ठीक है, आई होप दिस इज अंडरस्टैंडेबल. सो 1 lakh rupees set up in 1813. In 1833, all the avenues to the British government were open to Indians, but they were negated by Board of Control. And in the Charter Act of 1853, the Indians were allowed to participate. I think it is not mentioned here. No, it is not mentioned here. So there was a Macaulay committee that was appointed in 1854. Now in 1853 Charter Act, open competition system was announced. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे लिखा नहीं है, नहीं लिखा है. Okay. So the services were now thrown open to the competitive examination. So in the Charter Act of 1853, open competitive examination was announced. The court of directors, they were earlier 24 in numbers, they were reduced to 18. The law member now became the full member of Governor General Executive Council. Why it is called as Governor General's Executive Council? Because it was making the law, it was also the executive. Right now you have a difference between executive and the council. Okay? Council is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and executive is the ministers who are within the Modi government. Okay? I hope you understand that much. At that particular time, there was no separation of executive and council. The Governor General was making the law. The Governor General was administering the law also. Okay? So the law member was introduced in 1833. He made the permanent or the full member of the Governor General Executive Council in 1853. ठीक है, याद रखिए इन सब चीजों को. तो 1853 में the separation of the British and the legislative function of the government of British India progressed with inclusion of 6 additional members for the legislative purposes. So now they want to expand the legislative purposes as the territory is growing. So they thought the people aspirations are also growing. ठीक है, अब 1853 में there were some sections who were demanding that the legislature should be represented by Indians. ठीक है, the first local representation. Now when I say local representation, that is the people who were elected locally. ठीक है, अब सी द सिचुएशन क्या थी एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल की? दे वर कंप्लीटली नॉमिनेटेड बॉडी. गवर्नर जनरल वाज नॉमिनेटेड, सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट वाज नॉमिनेटेड, द लॉ मेंबर वाज नॉमिनेटेड. हु वाज नॉमिनेटिंग इट? द ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट. अब द 6 एडिशनल मेंबर्स जो चार्टर एक्ट 1853 ने प्रोवाइड करे, दे हैड टू बी कमिंग फ्रॉम द लेजिस्लेटिव और यू कैन से from the local governors, or they would consist of local governors of Bengal and Madras. So पहली बार जो इंडियन लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल बनी, ठीक है, जो लेजिस्लेटिव विंग बना, दैट बिकेम इन 1853. ठीक है, ऑल्दो गवर्नर वाज आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ इट, द गवर्नर जनरल वाज आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ इट, एंड इट रिक्वायर्ड द असेंट ऑफ द गवर्नर जनरल, बट there was a legislative council that existed in 1853. तो हुआ क्या? जो हमारे गवर्नर थे मद्रास के, ही वॉज अ ब्रिटिश, बट देयर वॉज अ लोकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन. लोकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन का मतलब कि पहली बार किसी लोकल इंसान को गवर्नर जनरल एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल में बनाया गया. ठीक है, इस तरह से इसको ध्यान रखिए. एक बार मैं फिर से आपको ओवरव्यू दे देता हूं गवर्नर जनरल के एंगल से. सपोज यू आर गवर्नर जनरल, ठीक है, उससे आपको चीजें ज्यादा बेटर क्लियर होंगी 1853 तक. 1858 we will start tomorrow, but I hope you understand what we have read today. Let's say you are Governor General. So in Robert Clive, in the form, the government of Britain had no control over you. So Robert Clive, when you were Robert Clive, you were completely free. When you were Warren Hastings, you had to provide some information from 1773 to 1784 that whatever you are doing in India, the information had to be corresponding to the British government. You just have to provide them. Okay, this is what is we are doing. This is how we are engaging. This is how we are fighting. After 1784, there was board of control. There was governor general, but the governor general and the board of control and the court of director, they were the three identities. The governor general was basically looking after the East India Company also and looking after whatever the board of control would be saying. Okay? Now, board of control was basically a type of a body who was engaging, okay, who were making laws. So board of control was existing over there. There was a secretary of state. There were 4 other members, privy council. There was a chancellor of exchequer who was keeping an eye on the revenue administration. Then came the Charter Act of 1793. Or before 1793, there is another 1786, the amendment of 1786. You came to India, you said to the British government that I want to be head of army, I want to be head of civil affairs. तो मुझे जो है दोनों का हेड बनाया जाए. तो you were made the head of both. You were acting in the similar manner up to 1813. 1813 you were in the same manner. ठीक है, you were the governor general. Nothing substantial has happened. In 1833 you were the governor general of Bengal, but as you have captured whole of the territory of India, so you became the governor general of India. After in 1833, as you become the Governor General of India, you were given more power. Up till 1853, in 1853, there were 6 members who were introduced in the legislative purposes. Okay, right now, how you were acting? You were making the law, you 3 were making the law, and you 3 were administering the law. In 1833, आपके साथ एक और पर्सन को अटैच कर दिया गया +1, that is law member. तो law member क्यों किया गया? ताकि गवर्नर जनरल को हेल्प हो सके लॉ को अंडरस्टैंड करने में, बिकॉज लॉ वाज आल्सो बिकमिंग कंफ्यूजिंग नाउ. ठीक है, तो 1853 में लॉ मेंबर वाज मेड द परमानेंट मेंबर ऑफ द गवर्नर जनरल एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल, 4 मेंबर ये प्लस 6 मेंबर्स अलग से. ठीक है, अब जो गवर्नर जनरल की एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल थी, whenever it met as a cabinet, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल अभी आप आई थिंक हर 10 दिन के बाद जयराम कैबिनेट इज मीटिंग. ठीक है, तो वो थी एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल जहां पे कैबिनेट डिसाइड करेगी कि करना क्या है. And after 6 months, I think or after 4 or 5 months, you see the legislature, that is HP Vidhan Sabha meeting. ठीक है, तो HP Vidhan Sabha और HP Executive पहली बार as they got separated in 1853 for some extent. Majority of the members were same, but for some extent they were separated. तो 6 additional members for legislative purposes. कि legislation जो है that is a major part. Execution इतना ज्यादा मेजर पार्ट नहीं है. तो 6 मेजर मेंबर्स who were there, they were included from the local representation. Understand one thing, when I say local representation, I does not mean Indian representation. By local representation, I mean the governor of Madras or the governor of Bombay who were still Britishers, but they were now of localities. They were now of Indian subcontinent. Earlier what used to happen? See the situation, the governor general nominated by crown, कहाँ पे बैठा है? ब्रिटेन में. The secretary of state nominated by crown, कहाँ पे बैठा है? ब्रिटेन में. The commander in chief nominated by crown, कहाँ पे बैठा है? ब्रिटेन में. ठीक है, तो आई होप दिस इज क्लियर. तो लोकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन पहली बार जब दी गई 1853 में, एंड आफ्टरवर्ड्स there will be some changes that will be coming in Indian Council Act of 1861 and the Council Act of 1892. But I hope you understand up till this point at that particular issue. Okay? Although the council was there to make the law, but the governor general could also veto any of the bill of the legislative council. That was still a power that was given to him. ठीक है, तो आज के लिए इतना ही करते हैं. आई होप ऑल these acts are clear. प्लीज इनको ढंग से पढ़िएगा. समटाइम्स दे आर डायरेक्टली आस्क्ड, समटाइम्स दे आर इनडायरेक्टली आस्क्ड। ठीक है, इन्हीं के बेसिस पे आई विल गिव यू एवरीथिंग अबाउट द हिस्ट्री। ठीक है, तो इसका भी सेकंड पार्ट वी विल कवर इन द नेक्स्ट पार्ट। तो अभी के लिए इतना ही करते हैं, फिर नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में वी विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द एक्ट फॉर बेटर गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया।